The Regency Era, the most popular historical costuming era right now, and I have been avoiding it. Unfortunately, that means I keep getting invited to Regency events and I either can't go or I have to borrow a costume because I don't have anything. So we're gonna remedy that. So for today's video, I'm going to be focusing on making some Regency short stays. But before I do that, montage of me making a shift. That was an easy one-day project. This Canix corner pattern was easy, but I definitely wouldn't say it was for beginners. It leans very heavily into the historically accurate construction methods, and this is an undergarment. I don't have time for historically accurate construction methods for undergarments. No one's going to see it. So I basically threw out all the instructions and just did my own thing. I really only got it because I didn't want to do the math. But I mean, it's all just like rectangles and squares. So if you want to make a shift, there's a ton of tutorials on YouTube about how to do the math. I was lazy. Also, if you're going to be like me and make a shift out of linen, don't get the cheapest linen you can find. This is unbearably scratchy to wear. It's fine, I'll probably get used to it, but make it out of cotton or at least spring for the slightly more expensive linen. I used this aqua ribbon because it was the only thing that I had, but now that it's in there, I kind of like it. I think it gives it a little bit of whimsy. Anyway, now that this is done, let's move on to the actual reason we're here. Red threaded, my mortal enemy. We meet again. Hopefully this time it won't be so bad. Last time I struggled with feeling like I didn't have enough seam allowances, so this time I'm putting my own seam allowances on things, so hopefully it won't be that bad. I'm going to do something really controversial. I'm going to make my mock-up out of the same fabric I plan on making the real thing, in hopes that my mock-up will become the real thing, because for my 1860s one, I didn't really have to make a whole bunch of adjustments at all. So I'm hoping to not waste fabric. But if I do need to make adjustments, I have enough to make a second pair. I just hate mock-ups, guys. It wastes fabric, it wastes time. I hate mock-ups. I know that you need to do it, but I hate mock-ups. So hopefully I don't have to do one, and this will just be the real thing. Drawstring, huh? Interesting. Everything's cut out and thread marked except for where the grommets go. I always find that my tailor's tacks fall out. I don't know if I'm doing them wrong or what, but I figure I will mark those later when I get closer to doing that because that's one of the last steps. Did I need to add so much seam allowance to the top and bottom? Probably not, but I can always cut it off later. I can't put it back on. So even though it was probably a step I didn't need to do, I probably could have kept the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the top and bottom. Hashtag no regrets. My gussets are done. Are they perfect? No. Are they the best I've ever done? Yes. Did I get them done super quickly? Also yes. I'm calling it a win. I'm using plastic boning instead of steel boning just because I like it better. That's really the only reason. It suggests steel boning, but this is what I have. This is what I'm going to use. Unfortunately, I don't think this is enough, so I'm going to have to order more. But I sewed a larger casing on the front, and I'm going to use this larger boning for the busk area to use up some of this because I have a lot of it. One thing I really don't like about red threaded patterns is that they assume you are going to serge the edges. And as one who does not have a serger, I cannot do that. And I knew this because of the last red threaded pattern I used, which is why I added my own seam allowances. Well, this back piece here is supposed to be folded back as a facing, and then the edge is just supposed to be left flat because you've already serged it. So what I ended up doing is folding back that edge 1/4 of an inch and top stitching over that, which actually helped me because now I'm able to make those boning channels slightly wider than the pattern tells me to do. So now I can use that 10mm boning I have a whole bunch of. Well, I did decide to cut off all the seam allowance I had added to the top. I knew I probably would. I am just one bone short. Ugh. I'm just gonna leave the bottom open and then I can shove that boning in there when it comes. But I am gonna go ahead and bind the top. The instructions do something really weird where it tells you to start sewing on the top binding and then sew on another piece and leave a little hole for the drawstring. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, so I went ahead and sewed 2 of the bias strips together, leaving a little hole for the drawstring, and I'm just going to sew this on starting in the middle and working my way out because it just seems to be more practical to do it that way, at least in my head. I have a confession. In making this, I completely forgot that I hadn't made a mock-up. And I haven't tried it on once. At this point, all I have left to do is set the grommets, add that one bone, and then bind to the bottom edge. I say, let's just finish it. Let's be surprised if it fits. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it fitting. Like, it's gonna fit, except maybe in the boobs. Because despite what a lot of commenters on my bustle dress video think, I don't actually have a lot of boob. I am a proud member of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee, so that's the only thing that I'm really kind of worried about. But, I mean, it does have a drawstring, so I think it'll be fine. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. It'll be suspenseful. Will it fit? Will it not fit? We'll find out. Oh, don't be like me, kids. As far as grommets go, I believe at this time eyelets would have been more historically accurate. But again, it's undergarments. No one's gonna see it. I'm gonna do the easier thing, which is grommets. Also, I think that they would have still been doing spiral lacing at this time, but again, I don't want to try to think about how those grommets are offset, so I'm just going to follow what the pattern says, which is just the regular old cross lacing. It's here! That came so fast. I ordered it on Saturday and it is only Wednesday, but I'm so excited because now I get to finish these stays! Come on, bob and thread. Last just a little bit longer. I just have the bottom binding to do. honestly, for not trying it on at all, it's pretty dang good. It's supporting and lifting and separating all like it's supposed to do. Never doubted myself for a second. Moral of the story, who needs a mock-up? Nah, I'm just kidding. You should still do a mock-up, but like, you know, it's a Regency stays. I didn't imagine that it would be that difficult to fit to my body. I'm just very lucky that I just kind of naturally fit patterns well. It's the big cup boobs that I have. See, I don't have big boobs, I promise. Also, this shift has gotten surprisingly way more comfortable after just wearing it for a little bit. So go ahead and get the cheap stuff. I'm not going to make the Regency dress in my next video because it's October and it's Halloween time and I gotta make Halloween costumes. So the Regency dress video will come out in November. But I'm very excited about my Halloween costume this year. If you want to see me look into making cool things like this, you should subscribe.